What's good, y'all? My name is Zach Young, and welcome back to Young Money Sports. So the Guardians were knocked out 4-1 in the ALCS by the Yankees the other day, and I was just wanting to go over the playoffs from the Guardians' perspective and what I think they can do going forward. I'll start out just by highlighting some of the standout players on Cleveland's end. I think Steven Kwan was easily our best all-around player in these playoffs. Offensively and defensively, he was bringing it every single game, and he was really bringing it back to that form that we saw at the beginning of the year, so that was really cool to see. Brian Rocchio also looked really good at the plate, which is really surprising. I think he almost nearly doubled his batting average from the regular season to the playoffs, and I do think that he did make some horrible mistakes defensively that cost us some games, but overall it was still good to have him out there. David Fry came through in a lot of big moments, giving us some of the best home runs in recent franchise history. Matthew Boyd looked pretty damn good in his 3 starts, only giving up 1 run in around 11 innings. I think his performance in these playoffs definitely shows that he has a place in our starting 5 going into next year. Cade Smith was dealing the entire time he was out there. He was our best relief pitcher by a country mile. Now that's not saying that our bullpen was necessarily bad throughout the playoffs. They were so good, but they weren't as good as they were during the regular season. And a lot of that comes down to one guy that we'll talk about later. Also want to quickly shout out Lane Thomas and John Kensey Noel for both giving us home runs that'll live in the memories of fans for a very long time. But now let's get to the bad players from these playoffs, and there's 2 that I want to highlight. The first being Emmanuel Clase. Man, I don't know what the hell happened to this man from the last game of the regular season to the second time that he stepped on the mound in the playoffs, because the first time was in a blowout and he really didn't give up much. But that second time is where things really started to go downhill for him. When he gave up that 3-run shot to Kerry Carpenter in Game 2 against Detroit, I guarantee you could hear a pin drop at that field. Like, Clase not coming through in the clutch was something that we had not seen in a very long time. He had only given up 5 runs throughout the entire season, and that home run gave up 3. But against Detroit, he picked it up in the next 2 games and helped us win the series. But when he got to play the Yankees, that is when the fall off truly happened for him in these playoffs. With 2 outs at the top of the 8th inning, this dude gives up a 2-run shot to tie the game to Aaron Judge. And then the next at-bat, he gives up a solo shot to Giancarlo to give the Yankees the lead back. He finished the inning, but he was so bad that he didn't even get put back out there for the 9th. But Cleveland wins that game in miraculous fashion, and Clase decides to celebrate by going on Instagram and posting all of his accolades and awards and rings and that such to show everybody just how good he really is. Well shit, I wish that was the guy that took the mound that night, because then the next night, Cleveland works all the way from being down 6-2 to tie the game up at 6 going into the 9th inning, and Clase has the bottom of the order coming up, and what does he do? Just give up 2 runs to give the Yankees the lead right back? It's crazy to think about that the fans were actually dreading Clase coming back out there in Game 5 when the game was tied going into the 9th inning because of how bad he had been throughout the playoffs. Now, I don't think this is going to lead to some catastrophic downfall of Emmanuel Clase. I think he's going to be able to bounce back from this and come out strong next year. But, man, it is just so Cleveland for something like this to happen. Like, oh, your starting pitching's actually doing well, or your offense is actually producing? Well, now we're going to take your best relief pitcher having one of the best relief pitching seasons of all time, and we're going to make him suck. Now, the other bad player that I want to quickly go over is Josh Naylor. Now, the Naylor brothers in general did not play very well in these playoffs, but I'm expecting more from Josh Naylor than I am Bo, so that's why I'm highlighting him here. I think it took this dude up until probably the very last game of the year to finally show up and do something in the playoffs. For the other 9 games of these playoffs, he was basically just like a black hole in the lineup. There was no real threat of him doing anything like hitting a home run or getting a big hit, and most of the time he would just end up with a strikeout. His plate discipline was laughable, to say the least. Like, I think he would give Javi Baez a run for his money. That's how bad his plate discipline was in these playoffs. And that leads me to, what now? What's next for Cleveland? This offseason is going to be huge for the team, because it's clear that while they do have a good amount of pieces that can help them get somewhat far in the playoffs, I don't think they're truly ready to make it all the way to the World Series. Of course, there are going to be a lot of players that are brought up in trade discussions or just about letting them go, and I think Josh Naylor is going to be at the front of all that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not pushing for Josh Naylor to leave out of any malicious intent or anything. I like Josh Naylor. I really respect what he's done for the team and the city, and I wouldn't hate if he stuck around. But there has to be more, either coming from him or someone else. This guy just cannot be your second best power bat in the lineup because he goes through so many stretches where he can't even make contact with the ball. And if someone like Kyle Manzardo continues to make progress and fits more into that first base spot, then Naylor may become excess goods. I believe he doesn't really have much time left on his original contract, so it wouldn't surprise me if he got moved at some point during the offseason or maybe early into the season. One or two more quality starting pitchers would really help this team get to the next level, in my opinion. The lack of consistently good starting pitching plagued the team all year, and it really came back to bite them in the ass in the playoffs. Like, I remember seeing one thing where the bullpen pitched around 67% of the innings during the playoffs, which is why you were seeing the bullpen struggle more as the season continued, especially near the end of the playoffs. You know, tossing 6 or 7 relief pitchers out there during a game is not a good recipe for success, especially in the playoffs. You definitely need to re-sign Shane Bieber and Matthew Boyd and get maybe one more good quality starting pitcher while still developing guys like Tristan McKenzie and Logan Allen, hoping that they can finally break through and become a regular part of the starting rotation. And this does need to be said, this is a time to push for a championship, but it's not a time just to go completely all in and throw everything away for the chance at winning a championship. It's weird because Cleveland's in sort of a situation where they have good players like at the top, but they also have a lot of good young players that can help them win in the farm system. So I really hope their mentality is, like I said, not just to throw all of our young players away in the hopes of competing for a championship right now. I will say though, they do need to do whatever they can to splurge for a good power bat and something that'll really help our offense reach that next level. Like this bargain bin stuff that they tried before just has not helped. Guys like Mike Zunino and Josh Bell were brought in to help the hitting out and they did absolutely nothing. So you need to try to go out and get someone that can actually help the offense and is proven to be a good offensive player. Of course, I'm not the only one saying this, but they really need to consider getting a new hitting coach, man, because we've had these times in the last couple of years, ever since this guy was brought in, that the offense has just gone completely silent, and it has killed any chance that we've had of winning a game, and especially in the playoffs. But, you know, I don't know. I think this is definitely going to be a very interesting offseason coming up for the team, and like I said, I'm very interested to see what they will do. And regardless of how the season ended, I really just want to say that this Guardians team was just so fun to watch, man. Like, of course, there were some frustrations along the way, but that's really any sports team that you're gonna like. You know, no team is gonna be perfect the entire way. In fact, most teams are just downright awful the entire way. But this team was just so enjoyable to watch. I really liked a lot of the players. I got to go see them play live twice, and actually seeing one win, which is the first time I've seen one of my pro teams win live in 6 years. Hopefully it won't be the last time that I go to Cleveland. I know that is not something that people normally say, but for me that's the case. And this Guardians team will go down as not just my favorite Guardians team ever so far, but just one of my favorite professional teams, period, out of my 20 plus years now of watching professional sports and my 15 plus years now, I guess, of having, you know, teams to cheer for. But what do you guys think Cleveland should do in the offseason? What do you guys think your team should do in the offseason? Let me know in the comments below. That's going to do it for this video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch y'all later.